So maybe to tease this out a little further, if any of the three of you would like to talk about what specifically you think is new or different about the Western or American cultural context that makes the Dharma or teaching the Dharma or practicing Buddhism different here than, say, 15th century Tibet or 15th century Japan?
Well, it seems to me that we're different. All of us, all over the world, are in the year 2010, and things have changed. And people in the West have grown up with the Abrahamic traditions. So we have firmly in ourselves some kind of Judeo-Christian or Islamic kind of view that we may think. It was kind of what Rinpoche was talking about earlier, the kinds of authorities that live within our mind. And they are there. So is psychology, feminism, Marxism. There's a lot of stuff that we have that are part of the way we grew up and what we learned in life. And until we're able to realize that those are the very receptors that are receiving Buddhism, we're going to be changing it. And in positive and negative ways, until we become more aware of those qualities of mind that we have that have been formed by our education and our backgrounds. So I think that that's a critical change now, because now with neuroscience and so forth, people are becoming more and more aware of that. And I really heard that in Rinpoche's talk this morning. The importance of our own being aware of our own mind and what is receiving this thing we're calling Buddhism. If we're a Catholic, if we're a Jew, if we're a Muslim, we're going to receive it slightly differently, depending on what kind of family we came from and what kind of political point of view we might have. So all of these things need to be seen and looked at. And I think that's the crux of Western Buddhism now, for me.
How about you?
I'm supposed to ask the questions.
Oh, okay, all right.
No, I'll speak in a little while.
The other point that I would also append to your comments, Roshi, the extensive quality of materialism that's present in Western culture, which makes it seem that everything has its price, that we can somehow purchase our spirituality. So I think that's perhaps a unique challenge for this time, this culture.
Rinpoche says. Well, I think one of the things that's new, which is definitely interesting, is what I like to call not even the internet age anymore, but the Wikipedia age, where if you want to learn about Soto Zen or the Vajrayana tradition or the Theravadan tradition or any of the other traditions, you don't have to cross any mountains or oceans. You don't have to develop great aspiration to meet a teacher who will teach you these things. You just have to have Wi-Fi. And there's some greatness there, because you can accustom yourself to different teachings and different spiritual traditions very quickly, but there's also a spoiled quality. I think I don't know if you guys experience this with students, but we're very instant gratification oriented, and we don't have to journey for months and months with offerings of gold, etc., to actually hear wisdom. So I think that has a great positive side. And Rinpoche was talking at lunch about the melting pot of American Dharma, which I want him to speak more on, but also has a negative side in the information age of almost Buddhism being too easy, and then you just make it your own in the egoic sense.
And also, it reduces it to some lines on your computer or on your iPod. And that is not what it's about. It's about our lives and our connections with others, and there's an isolating quality to only thinking it's the concepts that are expressed in the language that you speak or that you hear from someone. There's so much, that's so little of the reality.
Is there a positive side at the same time?
I thought you talked about the positive side. And we were talking at lunch about the positive side. It's amazing that you can find out anything. Yesterday I Googled, why do pigeons fly in circles? And, got like 20 answers, about 5 of which had some validity. I sound very negative. I'm not negative on this, but it's just where I am today.
Yes, I think everything is said. So, not much to add here, but I think whether we talk about Western Buddhism or American Buddhism or Tibetan Buddhism, Japanese, what have you, basically I think we're talking about the container. That's what I think is the container in which we hold the wisdom and compassion, And so the containers are different from culture to culture, and containers are different from century to century, and we have all these different containers. We have a beautiful, ornate Tibetan cup that can hold a nice butter tea, which I think most of you hate. That's why I say, Tibetans are really poor in marketing. Instead of calling it butter tea, if you call it Himalayan tea soup or something, everyone will probably enjoy that, right? But when you say it's a tea, anyway, but the name itself is quite revolting. Butter tea. And so it's like a container, right? And how we make the best use of the water. It really serves a purpose in Tibet on high plateau and such a harsh weather. This fat and all these things really helps your body to sustain. So in the same way, like in India, we enjoy coconut water. Just cut the coconut and then drink the water. But it's just the container is different. And the coconut water also has the water element, right? Butter tea also has the water element. And then in India, we have chai. I think you all love chai. And it used to be served in India in these little clay cups that you can drink and then smash them. I loved them as a kid, even if I didn't have to drink tea, I'd drink tea because I can smash the cup afterwards. And it also shows a nature of impermanence too. And so you can see, I think the container is different, but the content all has the same element, that is the water, So whether it's American Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, Japanese, what have you, the content is the wisdom that we're talking about here and the compassion. And maybe I'm talking too much.
I don't think so.
Okay. So I think the difference here, I think it's really quite interesting because when I first came here at 14, I can see the contrast in two cultures. Even at the surface level, it's pretty obvious. Then the more I spend time here, I find more and more similarities as a basic human being. Looking for happiness, looking for freedom. They're very similar. Then more and more I spend time here, I see more fundamental differences. Again, in our culture. At this point, I think what I'm thinking about is the main difference is in the fundamental sense of axiom. Basic axiom is quite different. Even though we may sound like talking about the same thing or similar logical conclusion or what not, but basic axiom, I think there's some difference there, which I still can't really pinpoint.
Powder. When I hear those comments, Rinpoche, what I think of is the topic of surrender, and before the panel we had some discussion earlier, and we're talking about different ideas of freedom, taking off from what we had talked about this morning, and this idea that freedom can be achieved by a self, that we take possession of that idea of freedom, and it's very much built into our foundational documents as an American culture, this unalienable right to freedom. But it poses a unique question, or a unique challenge when we enter onto the spiritual path, where we are called to let go. And so I wonder if that isn't part of that axiomatic difference, and I don't know. But it seems to me that it's pretty fundamental here in the West. That there's still this need to possess our experience, so it's very hard to completely surrender.
But being a New Yorker, where every other Dharma student has also been in psychoanalysis for 20 years, I have to say that the advent of Buddhism in the psychotherapeutic world has shifted the psychotherapeutic world a lot. And what I'm encountering a lot of people who are really examining their self from a psychotherapeutic perspective, understanding relational psychoanalysis and so forth. So it's not like we're in the 1950s anymore, and I just kind of wanted to point that out. I think there's a lot of work being done, both in the psychotherapeutic world and the world of neuroscience, for people to begin to see that the old concepts of the self really shred on examination.